In today's video, we're going to be talking tyre pressures, everything you need to know about your pressures on and off-road. Then we're going to look at ways to reduce the time spent airing up and airing down. And finally, we're going to give you a few tips and tricks to look out for when it's time to buy your air compressor. To do this, we're going to completely tear apart a high quality compressor and a cheap compressor to show exactly what the differences are. Plus, we even have a giveaway that's super easy to enter, so stick around for that. Lowering your tyre pressures is the cheapest and best thing you can do to make your four-wheel drive perform better off-road. Watch as I drive the Luxy over this log to demonstrate how the tyre behaves at 40, 20 and 10 PSI. And what you'll see as I go down in pressures is the lower I go, the tyre will mould over the log more. What that will allow for is a number of things. Firstly, it'll make the ride more comfortable when you're off-road, but most importantly, it'll let the tyre mould around the log nicely to use more of the sidewall. Gives you more grip, and it'll also give you a higher resistance to punctures as well because everything's softer. But what dropping your tyre pressures is also doing is giving your tyre tread more length. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to show you this by painting the tread on my tyres at 40 PSI and 15 PSI, then dropping them on this piece of paper so you can see the difference. As you can see, the tread of the tyres at 15 PSI is a lot longer. What this means is there's more tread in contact with the ground. This spreads the load of the vehicle better, preventing it from sinking and getting bogged off-road. But let's see if it actually makes a difference in the real world by tackling a track at both 40 and 15 PSI to see if there's any difference. Right, keen to do a bit of an off-road test to see the difference in the pressures. So right now I'm at road pressures on this slippery hill climb. See, I'll be working those Kumhos pretty hard to get up here. You can even feel it. Like, I don't want to be tearing up the track or anything, but you can just feel the tyres are working just that little bit harder. Last thing I want to do is rip up the track just for the sake of a test. I'm going to try that one more time just with a little bit more momentum, and if I don't get it I'll stop. Yeah, wow, that's crazy. Alright, I'm going to back down this hill and air the tyres down and try this again. Now, let's pop the pressures down to 15 PSI and see how it goes. Alright, I've aired down, see how we go. That's way easier already, like you can feel it. I'm working the vehicle way less harder, that is insane. Way more traction, that's good. Yeah, there you go. Like, you just don't need to work the vehicle as hard. You conserve the track and you look after your tyres. It's only positives. It's also more comfortable. Air your tyres down, makes a massive difference. Now, we've found out why tyre pressure is important off-road, but what about on-road? Tyre pressures are one of the biggest causes of excessive tyre wear on your four-wheel drive. When your tyre is overinflated, you're actually only really contacting the road with the middle of your tyre. What that's going to do is reduce rolling resistance. From that, you'll use less fuel, but you're going to wear out the inside of your tyre faster and you won't have as much grip. On the other hand, if your tyres are underinflated, they wear out quicker, use more fuel and have worse performance in the wet, because only the outside edges of the tyre are in proper contact with the road. As a result, any water underneath the tyre isn't able to escape efficiently. So now that we've had a look at why maintaining the correct air pressure both on and off-road is so important, the next thing we want to have a look at is how to control those air pressures. And the best way to do that is with a quality air compressor. Portable ones like these are probably one of the first things that four-wheel drivers will add to their kit. Let's have a look at why they're so handy. These things are super easy to set up. You can transfer them between vehicles and they're usually a lot more affordable than the onboard systems like the one I've got in my solid axle swapped Hilux. The problem that I always find though is airing down and airing up takes forever, especially when you're doing one tire at a time. You have to kneel down at the tire, get it down to the pressure you want, do it with the next one, the next one, and the next one. And of course, inflating is the same, which is why I've been using one of these MORRFlate 4 tire hose kits. Now this will do up to 4 tires. If you want to do 2, 3, or all 4 tires at the same time, this is perfect. You can deflate and inflate with the same kit, and you don't have to do anything while it's working. So to do a bit of a test and see if these are actually any good compared to doing one tire at a time, I'm gonna hook up the MORRFlate 4 tire hose kit. I'm gonna deflate all 4 tires and time it. Then I'm gonna air them back up with the 4 tire hose kit and do the same test doing one tire at a time to see which one's quicker. Let's hook in. Note that for these tests, we're using the MORRFlate 10.6 PSI Pro. This speeds up the single hose test due to its auto shutoff feature once it's reached the desired PSI. With a regular compressor or a regular tyre gauge, this test will be much slower due to having to check each tyre's PSI after inflation or having to stop and start the compressor each time to get to the pressure you want. First off, let's compare the single hose kit to the MORRFlate kit by inflating and deflating while including the setup and pack up time to see if there's any difference. When you're doing one tyre at a time, it's annoying to come back and kneel down each time, especially when you're trying to pack up recovery gear, give your four drive a look over, or just fix things before you get back on the road. 12 minutes and 30 seconds. Not bad, but I reckon we can do better. Now, let's use the 4 hose kit to deflate and inflate all 4 tyres, including the pack up and setup time, to see if there's any difference. With the 4 hose kit, you can just set and forget, which means I'm able to make my lunch or a coffee, or even have a chat with my cameraman while I wait for the compressor to reach its target pressure and automatically shut off. 9 minutes 30, a saving of 3 minutes. It is a little bit faster using the 4 hose kit, but the other advantage I had was I was using the 10.6 PSI Pro compressor to do one tyre at a time, and it was doing all the work for me. If I had a normal gauge, I'd have to crouch at each tyre and manually check the pressures, so I reckon it'd probably take a little bit longer. Even still, a little bit quicker with the 4 hose kit, and the fact that I had to do less work, I reckon that's a win. Heat is one of the biggest killers of an air compressor, and it's to do with something called back pressure. MORRFlate reckon they can reduce back pressure and load on a compressor using a 4 hose kit because it distributes all the air to all 4 tyres evenly at the exact same time, whereas one hose causes more pressure buildup and it makes the compressor work harder. But what is back pressure and what does it actually mean? How does it affect your compressor? Well, to show you, I've got a bucket and a hose here. I'm going to demonstrate the difference. Once I hook up the garden hose to the tap and turn the tap on full blast, the water flows through the hose and fills the bucket quickly because there's nothing to stop it. Watch what happens once I attach the nozzle. The flow slows down and it takes much longer to fill the bucket. Even though the tap's pressure is the same, the nozzle creates a restriction in the system with its smaller diameter inlet, causing less water to flow through. Because the full pressure of the water isn't getting through the smaller inlet, back pressure builds up in the system. This is exactly what happens with your air compressor when you're inflating using a single hose inflator. Just think of the nozzle as your tyre valve and the garden hose as your air compressor. You see, most compressors will put out around 150 litres for a single cylinder to 300 litres per minute for a dual cylinder. All this pressure is forced into the little valve in your tyre called a Schrader valve, which all car tyres have. Think of this Schrader valve as the nozzle on the garden hose. Due to their design, they only let in about 56 litres per minute because they're really narrow, much like the nozzle. So you're usually left with up to 244 litres of wasted air. That's all got to go somewhere, right? Well, that's the main issue. All of that pressure goes back into the compressor, forcing it to work overtime and overheat, trying to overcome all this excess air in the system. But how hot do these compressors actually get? And is heat one of the more common reasons that they are a bit more likely to fail? I asked myself the same question, and to do a bit of a test, I've got a generic twin compressor here that you can get at any auto parts store, and of course the MORRFlate 10.6 PSI Pro. We're going to do a bit of a heat test, inflating a couple of sets of tyres. We're going to measure the heat of each and see how hot these things really get. The MORRFlate compressor is up first, and I'll be inflating all 4 tyres twice, using the single hose to simulate real-world conditions. Let's see how it performed. All right, so we've just done 2 sets of tyres with 1 hose with the MORRFlate compressor. And on the side of the cylinder here, it's sitting around 73, 74 degrees, which is pretty good. Now I'm gonna let this one cool down. I'm gonna do the same test with a single hose on the generic compressor. Then once this one's cooled down, we'll hook up the 4-tire hose kit and do the same test again twice, but inflating 4 tires at once, and see if there's a difference in back pressure and temperature. Well, you wouldn't read about it, but halfway through this test, this compressor actually just let go. It wasn't my intention. It's not a brand new compressor. I feel like if you bought one off the showroom floor brand new, you wouldn't have this issue, or maybe you would, who knows. This one has been in the shed for a little while. I have used it out on the tracks in the past. So yeah, I don't know, it just gave up. The pitch changed when it was running then. Bit of a bummer because I couldn't complete the test, but just goes to show, you get a quality compressor, you won't have these issues. Again, it's not this compressor's fault. I don't think it has had a hard life inflating lots of tires, but even still. All right, so the MORRFlate compressor is back down to 25 degrees. It's a couple of degrees up from where it was at the start of the test, but we're happy to run it anyway. Now I'm gonna do the same test again, airing up the tires twice with 4 hoses connected. So doing all 4 tires at once. The theory is with less back pressure, the compressor won't be working as hard and therefore it won't get as hot. But there's only one way to find out. With this test, this compressor got to around 62 degrees after doing 8 tires, doing them 4 at a time, whereas before we did them 1 at a time. About a 10 degrees difference there. To understand why the 4 hose kit keeps things cooler, think back to the garden hose in a bucket. If you have just one nozzle on the hose, it can only let out a certain amount of water, causing pressure to build up. The compressor then has to work harder to overcome this pressure, causing it to get hot. So what's something to consider? Well, no matter what compressor you have, if you're using a 4 hose kit instead of 1 at a time, your compressor's not going to be working as hard, and therefore it might last a little bit longer. Righto guys, it is my favorite time of the video. It is of course giveaway time, and we have a cracker for you. One lucky 4-driver will get themselves all of this gear here, and to enter, all you need to do is comment below, tell us your favorite 4-wheel drive track and why. That lucky 4-driver will score themselves a MORRFlate 10.6 PSI Pro compressor, one of MORRFlate's new air hubs, cracking bit of kit, I'll talk about this in a sec, and of course a 4 hose kit to go with it. Now, this compressor is mint. I've used all of this gear all around Australia and in the US, from Tassie, the Vic High Country, northern Sierra Nevada mountains of California. All this equipment has been flogged and I have been loving it. Now, this is the latest addition from MORRFlate. It is called their air hub. Basically, compressor goes in here to air up. You set your pressure up or down, whatever you want. Open the chuck and you're away. Same with deflating. You set the pressure, open the chuck, it'll go down, it'll beep at you when it's done. USB rechargeable. Got a little hanger on the back so you can hang it on your bull bar, or you can hang it in your canopy for a bit more of a permanent setup. Pair that with the 10.6 PSI Pro compressor. Awesome bit of kit. They've put a lot of time into designing this and getting it mint. It's got a nice braided hose for your fitting. It's also nice and long too, which means you can reach up to your air hub or your deflator kit. Now the 4 hose kit, these hoses, I've been to the MORRFlate factory in California, and watching how they assemble all this stuff, you can tell they hold it to quality. Even just things like the crimps, the hose doesn't kink. The chuck valves are fantastic. Their design pushes the Schrader valve needle in further than traditional chucks, providing the most flow through the valve. All those little things that just make this high quality gear, and one lucky 4-driver could win it for their setup. So jump in the comments below, get commenting, tell us your favorite 4-drive track and why, and all this could be yours. Good luck. There are so many different compressors on the market. To be honest, it can be a little bit overwhelming if you're going to buy your first one. But the difference between a lot of compressors on the market are in those 1%ers, those finer things that some of the more quality compressors will do that you may not find on more of your budget options. And obviously these ones look quite similar. They're both twin compressors. They both do 300 liters a minute, but what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to tear both of them down, and we can have a look at the subtle differences that would make this more of a budget-friendly option compared to this one, which is obviously one you pay a little bit more for, but the quality is in its performance and design. It's all these little things that I've noticed from using them. I'm actually also curious to see what failed in here, so we're going to pull it apart and inspect up. So let's hook in. A few things straight off the bat. For example, this cylinder head on this one is plastic compared to this one is alloy. Obviously this one's going to dissipate heat better. Looking at this one is just a rubber hose with a hose clamp on the end of it. I get the method to that. It means it's replaceable if it does fail, but then this one has a braided hose with heat shrink over the crimp.
Now we know what to look for on the outside, but how about the inside? The material of the piston rings has been changed to a new material that lasts 3 times longer than standard when exposed to heat and friction. Strong rings are essential because that's where the actual air pressure comes from.
I was curious as to why this failed. I thought it might have been a bolt for the crankshaft. How I know that happened was I shouldn't be able to pull the piston out like that. It's worth noting, this hasn't been flogged within an inch of its life. It's only 1 or 2 years old. I've used it probably 5 to 10 times. And this one is the one that I take on my trips with me, and I've used it probably 15, 20 times over the last 4 or 5 months sort of thing. So it's not like this one's brand new either. I'm not comparing a brand new one to an old one. That would be unfair. But these are both used compressors. If you look here, this has got a mushroom head bolt on the end cap for the crankshaft, and that has failed, and it's caused one of the pistons to just come off. So it was a cylinder down. And then if you look in this cylinder, this one's got a cap head bolt, and it's probably even a high tensile one. It just looks a bit nicer put together. Now, of course, MORRFlate do quality assurance tests on their compressors when they get them. I know that for a fact because I've been to their warehouse and I've seen them do it. And it's that sort of stuff that will make the difference. Yes, this compressor will cost more, and on paper, both of these do 300 litres a minute. This will get you by. It'll do the job, no worries, but it's failed and this one hasn't. And this has been in the back of the Pony, the N70, the Parenti, and a bunch of other 4-wheel drives that I've been mucking around with. So, you know, save a little bit more money if you can and get a higher quality one. You're less likely to have a failure like this. Now, of course, if you're watching this and you've already got a compressor, it works sweet, happy days. That's where adding something like a 4-hose kit to your current setup will really help, because not only will it reduce your air down and air up times, it means you have to do less work, it will also reduce the heat, back pressure and stress on your current compressor. And if you're watching this and you want to take your current setup to the next level again, that's where adding something like this will really come into its own. This is the new air hub from MORRFlate, and this will basically take any compressor setup and turn it into an automated system. Hopefully this video has helped you learn a little bit more about tire pressures and what to look out for when it comes time to buying your air compressor. And don't forget to enter the awesome competition to win an epic MORRFlate prize pack from this video by liking the video and commenting below telling us your favorite 4-wheel drive track and why. Now, of course, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and turn your notifications on. Follow our social media pages to keep up with what the team are doing. Instagram, our Facebook group, of course, YouTube and TikTok as well. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.